Dude, the funny thing is, the last time I was wearing this mask, I had the hat on, and I just took them off together, and it kind of stayed, so I think that's the hat I have to wear for this video. If you don't know, I spend most of the time on this channel debating on which hat I should wear per video. And since this one was already on, it kind of did my job for me. Alright. Hey, what up? I'm Miles and welcome back. And we have a fun build for you guys today. Oh man, that's like super cringy. That sounded like I was trying to be an informational channel, but we know that's not the case. Anyway, we do have a fun project to get started on today. Now, this is not gonna be a one-day build like the last one was, mostly because it's cold and it's gonna take longer for my paint to dry, and I'm also starting at like 7 o'clock at night. So anyway, not the point. A couple videos back, I unboxed a new face shell, the PS5 Miles Morales shell, and we spent that video building the shell start to finish, going through the bodywork, going through all the lenses, going through the painting, the process, all that fun stuff, and it was one of my favorite projects and I had a lot of fun doing it. However, at the end of the video, I revealed that I had 2 extra mystery shells in that box that I ordered because my guy Maffhew DC was doing a holiday sale and I had to pick up on it, so I got 3 shells. I am in severe financial despair. Anyway, I'm not going to reveal every single shell, but I am going to reveal the next one, and if you've clicked on the video and you saw the thumbnail, you know what it is. In this video, we are going to be putting together and building and finishing the Into the Spider-Verse Miles Morales shell, the one with the animated lenses this time. Oh hey, it's future Miles. That was a very false statement. I failed a lot. This is one that I'm incredibly excited to have and to build because it's one that I've wanted to do for a very long time. One of my first Spider-Man cosplays was the Into the Spider-Verse Miles Morales suit, the Leap of Faith suit, because it is my all-time favorite Spider-Man suit ever, with the hoodie, the shorts, the J's, all that. However, I did it with the print costume basic shell. Number 1, because it's the only shell I could afford at the time. Number 2, because it came with the suit. And number 3, I wanted to go for more of a realistic, like in real life version of that suit. And I think the street shell kind of fits that. However, we are going around again and doing the animated version of the shell this time. Now, if you saw the last video building the other shell from Maffhew DC, you will know that the kits he provides are incredibly easy to build and put together, and they're very fun to do. So, if you watched that last video, you know the process, you know what we're gonna do. I don't need to explain the whole thing again. I'm probably going to because I over-explain everything. If you want more of an informative, like slowed down version, you can watch the other one. I kind of know what I'm doing now. I will deeply live to regret that statement and the way I so confidently said. I know the process, I know the way to get it done, so let's get into building it. Alright, so obviously the first pieces that we have come from the kit itself. We have the shell itself printed from Maffhew DC. You can see his logo right up there and it looks gorgeous. The shell itself does not need a lot of work. We do minor body work just to clean up any 3D print strands or boogers, and we do just a quick once over to make sure we're getting all these little holes, to make sure we're getting everything nice and smooth. We also have the 2 lenses that he printed up. These also get a once over with a higher grit. This is a much smoother finish, so we start with a much higher grit. We don't need to be doing obscene bodywork on this. We got some 3D print boogers on there that I just like to clear up because this is where we're gluing the magnets, so I want to make sure we have a good surface. To go along with those lenses, we have the 2 corresponding mesh shapes that obviously go in either lens. This is just the raw mesh, so we're going to have to paint it white so it mimics something just like this. So obviously these are all cut out, they have the magnet things. He makes it super easy, but at the end it kind of looks something like this when we paint the mesh white, and then this will obviously be a red color. So that's step 1, is body working everything to get it in the right state. Now step 2 is when we move on to paints. So for the actual mesh, all I do is hit it with a white airbrush paint. I do a couple different coats of a dusting airbrush, let it dry, flip it, do the same thing. I don't like to go super heavy on these. The lenses are going to get a nice red airbrush paint, probably going to use the exact same one we used last time, which is this Create Effects Illustration Colors. I do also have this Wicked color that I wanted to use last time, however it was too thick and I didn't have thinner, but I did find some thinner. So I might be doing a little bit of a test with that flow improver, with that thinner, to see if I like that color a little bit better. If I do, I'll use that. If not, I'll use this color. No big deal. We also have 2 different blues to try because if you're unaware, this shell has a small little line right there. Right in there. That is painted blue. So we're gonna have to strategically use some masking tape after we do the red to very carefully mask off everything else, paint on that blue, and hope to God we get it right. That's really the only step that I'm kind of skitzing about, but we'll worry about that when we get there. Then after paint, of course, we have the magnet assembly where the magnets go into the lenses and then the corresponding spots on the shells. Now I also do like to hit my shells with a quick coat of Plasti Dip to give it a little bit of grip so the fabric mask doesn't slide and slip around, but it's currently like 1 degree outside. Okay, correction. It's 2 degrees outside. With it being so cold, I'm absolutely not gonna risk taking this outside to apply any sort of rattle can, but when it gets a little bit warmer, I can easily take this outside, take the mask off, spritz it, and we'll be fine. But with all that being said, let's actually get into it. So the first step I like to do is normally bodywork, but I'm actually gonna save it for step 2 because I want to A, bodywork these lenses first so that I can prime them, and B, when that is drying with its primer, I can shoot these with the white airbrush paint, let those dry and alternate between these two, and then when those are both drying, then I can move back to the shell. However, I am gonna lay down some paper because I don't know if you noticed, I redid my workbench and I got new nice cutting boards and I don't want to get paint on them. So I had a whole like Viking funeral for my last cutting board because my boy was, let me show you. I kept him. Even though I had a funeral for him, I kept him. Look at this absolute champion, dude. This guy went through the damn ringer. Look at that. My boy put in the work. This was a soldier fighting to the last straw. And now he's replaced with these nice mats. These are actually 2 mats. Like I have a huge one covering my whole bench, and then I have a separate one that I use for print orders. That's off topic. Fixed it. I feel like every time I use my airbrush, I break it. Now, I went over this in the last video, but I'll quickly go over it right now. These lenses are supposed to be painted red, however, they were printed using a darker filament. Red does not go on top of a darker color. If you try to paint that, it won't work. I've tried it before. It doesn't work. I don't know why. Red won't really go on a darker color. What we need to do is we need to prime it first, and we're going to prime it using a white because white will go on a darker color, but red will not. So we're going to use the same primer we used last time, Krylon Fusion, just basic white primer. Hit it with a coat of that on either side, make sure we hit both of the edges, and then go forward with red airbrush paints. God dang, my spray paint like froze because it's right next to the window. Should I soak this in water? Probably. Am I going to? Nope. I want to say it's fine, but I feel like it's not. It's not really giving me a sign that it's okay. Let me test it on something. Okay, I'm just looking for like surface bubbles or anything. Like, see right there, we got a little bit of bubbleage. Don't really like that. Sometimes that happens when it's too cold. I want to say we'll be okay if I just lightly dust it. Let's risk it. On the worst case, we'll sand it back off. Alright, so here's how we're looking right now. I put the mesh in temporarily. I just like slotted it into the insert just to kind of get a feel for it. Now, if you saw the last face shell video, you know what the next step is. Simply just going to take some red airbrush paint and lightly dust it over in layers to get a nice even finish over the whole thing. I'm going to try the new color with the flow improver that I found to see if it works. If it doesn't, I'll use the old color, no big deal. But that's our next step.
1 million zillion jillion dillion cotillion times later.
Okay, so that took me a ridiculous amount of time and tries. If you stayed updated on my Instagram stories for the past like 2 weeks, you'll understand my struggle. But for those of you who don't, allow me to like take 2 or 3 minutes to just explain and rant about this. I also find it ironic how at the beginning of the video I literally said this will be an easy project. So here's how this shit went down. Again, if you're part of the Instagram homies, you know my pain. Mind you, It is like 2.5 weeks since I started this video. I'm gonna try to explain it in the most express way possible so I don't bore you and also don't make myself relive that trauma from dealing with it, but I need to explain this. Right off the bat, I'm gonna say the method that I used that worked was very simple and easy, and had I done that the first time, we would already have won on the first try, and everything else would have worked. Now that I'm thinking about it, I failed at like every part of this mask too. Like the white primer didn't work, the magnets in the end also struggled. Not the point. Anyway, so the first step I did on the first try was just painting the lenses red. I've done this a million times before. I knew how to do this. I put the red paint with the thinner in my airbrush, got it done. It looked perfect. I know how to airbrush lenses, right? That wasn't the problem. The next step is the one that I knew I was going to have a little bit of trouble with, but nowhere could I have imagined it would have taken me this long and I would have this much trouble. It was taping off the red to apply on that thin blue line around the lens, right? Seems simple enough. The first way I tried to do it was, of course, the simplest way, was to use masking tape to apply it over the red lens and then cut it out and then just peel off the little beam in between to paint the blue on. So I didn't have the best tape. I just used normal masking tape. You can see the issue, right? I used normal masking painter's tape on top of the lenses I had painted. I gave them a day to dry, but it didn't help because when I peeled the tape back, it ripped the red paint off. So that was an easy fix. Don't freak out, don't freak out. Puzzle code in my head, now it's on the wall, right? I had it. All I did was resand and repaint. That was the first time I had to resand and repaint. Easy. I moved gears and I just got a different tape. On round 2, on attempt 2, I got a specific painter's tape that deals with delicate surfaces. It is literally titled delicate tape that you put on top of surfaces that you don't want to rip the paint off of. The tape has stop emailing me! Make sure my mic is on. I don't want to do this twice. The tape is designed to have just enough adhesion to apply onto the surface, but not so much that it rips the paint off. Seems like it would work, right? So I applied that on the lens, used an X-Acto blade very carefully to cut it out again, peel off where the blue would go, and then it was time to paint the blue. For the blue, I didn't have any blue airbrush paint, so I mixed 2 different blue acrylic paints, mixed the thinner in, did a little swish swish, and then put it in my airbrush. Boom, boom, I had perfect blue airbrush paint. This is when I thought I was winning, right? Because I just perfectly mixed 2 blues to get the perfect color, right? And I just eyeballed it too when I put the thinner in. Woohoo! That was a misstep. I used the blue and applied it with the airbrush on top of the lenses that had the delicate tape. Gave it a little bit to dry, and when I peeled it off, the tape didn't work, man. Because the tape was so delicate and it didn't have enough adhesion, it didn't stick everywhere. So it was peeling up in some places and the blue bled through. That was the problem. So the first thing I did was to try to touch up the blue with the red. I tried to use a very fine brush and paint the red paint on top. The reason this didn't work is because, like we explained earlier, red does not apply on a darker surface. Henceforth, why we had to prime the lenses. So that was useless. There was no way I was going to get the red on top of the blue. So I tried to sand the blue off. However, since my red paint wasn't strong enough yet because I didn't put any clear coat on it, when I started sanding it, I started sanding off the red too. So I figured, okay, might as well just commit to it, and I sanded all of it off and tried again. Now we're on the 3rd attempt. Keep in mind, I'm giving you the express version. Every single time I redid this, I had to sand all of the paint off no matter how many layers was on it, take an X-Acto blade and carve out those lines again because I was getting so much dust into them, and then reapply the white primer. I used a whole can of that damn primer because I was doing this so many times. The 3rd time we tried it, we tried to flip it around. We tried to flip the system a little bit. We were gonna outsmart these guys, right? I'm these guys. I'm the one who. Anyway, I posted my struggles on Instagram, and one of the homies, this guy, recommended that I get pinstripe tape. I didn't know what that was. I've never heard of it. Clearly, I'm not a professional, but I bought it. Also, side note, Amazon sucks, man. I ordered it because it said 1-day shipping, like overnight shipping, because I wanted to get this thing moving. That's a lie. I ordered it, and it said order before blank PM. I ordered it before blank PM, and the next day I checked it, it said it was going to be delivered in 2 days. That was straight false advertisement. So I had to wait like 2 days for that. Anyway, when the pinstripe tape showed up, this is the coolest tape ever, by the way. It comes in a 1/4, a 1/3, an 1/8, and a 1/16. It goes really small, and this was perfect. So I reversed the order, and I thought I was going to try a different method. I thought I was going to be smart this time. Primed the lenses again, and this time I mixed the blue, and I painted the blue on first. Then, using the pinstripe tape, I very carefully taped right on top of the blue. Mind you, I clear coated the blue before because I had a feeling it was going to rip the paint off again. So I clear coated the blue, and I very carefully covered it with the tape. Now, since I knew the red wouldn't stick to the blue, this time I had to reprime again. So with the tape already on the blue, I hit it with the white primer again. It should be known, I am putting too many layers on these lenses on attempt number 3. I prime those white and then I hit them with the airbrush with the red again. When I take the tape off, and I hope that it takes the tape off perfectly and gives me a nice blue line, it doesn't. It doesn't. Because I applied the white primer again, the white primer for some reason got into the crack, but the red paint didn't. Don't know why. I didn't move the tape between sprays, so that was annoying. Oh, I forgot to mention on this third attempt, the white primer, when it sprayed on top of the blue paint, it clashed. The paints clashed, so I had this stupid little like bubble texture that I didn't like. I tried to sand it off, didn't work. So that pretty much tanked it, but my dumbass still decided to paint red over it. Very clearly that didn't work. I just caked up too many layers of paint. It was clashing, it didn't look good. So I sanded it all off again. Now at this point, I have like no primer left, no red paint left, pretty much enough left for one try. And I am determined to not purchase any more materials because I literally said in the beginning of this video, this will be easy. So I'll own up to it. I lied. That sucked. Anyway, attempt number 4. This was the one. This was the big one. This is the one that had to work. Aside from the fact that I was running low on materials, I really just wanted to finish because it was just sitting on my workbench tormenting me and I needed to win. We applied the white primer. Perfect. We applied the red paint. Perfect. This time, instead of applying the delicate tape and cutting it out, we used the super thin 16th inch pinstripe tape to very carefully dig it into that stupid little crevice all around the lens. And then I just kept moving up in thickness of the tape, overlapping it, overlaying it to absolutely make sure there was no spot it could spray through. Also, at this point, I kind of just only have photos. I stopped recording because I was so locked into getting it done. I could not care enough to press record because I knew I was gonna mess up if the camera was watching me. Anyway, after a grueling process of taping it all off super perfectly with the pinstripe tape, I mixed up the last batch of blue again. Also, I had already sprayed the red lenses with a layer of clear coat, so any tape I put on would be protected. This time when I applied the blue, I lowered my PSI on the airbrush compressor incredibly low, so it was barely pumping paint out. It was shooting just enough out so that it would apply evenly, but not so much that it would like and you know, like blow the tape off. So very, very carefully, I applied the blue paint to this layer. Surely it has to work, right? And it didn't. You might have expected me to say that attempt number 4 worked. It didn't. But, my friends, it was easy enough to fix. There was opportunity here. And I was out of primer, so I needed it to work. Anyway, when I pulled the tape off, there was a couple different bleed spots of the blue that popped through. I took incredibly high grit sandpaper, like 3000, and I sanded the blue off. Because I had already applied the clear coat on top of the red, it didn't affect the red in any place except for one. However, in that one place, I taped it off again, shot the red on top, and made it perfect. Then I spent like an hour using super thin brushes and just touching up any little spot I didn't like. And at that point, I called it a day. I think it was like an 8 out of 10 at that point, and I did not want to have to do it again because I was losing my mind, but I still think it could be better. By the way, if you ordered this shell from Maffhew DC and you're watching this video as a tutorial, don't do that. This is purely for entertainment purposes. This is not a tutorial. Learn from my mistakes. Don't do anything I did here. Maffhew, if you're watching this, I'm so sorry that I've absolutely tanked this project. I swear the next one I'll build will be better. Anyway, I applied 2 different layers of clear coat on top of it. I applied a gloss coat and then a matte coat on top to kind of reverse counter each other and then seal it in. And I called it a day. That's the end of how I got the final result. I am heated. I'm not filming the outro right now because I'm heated up. I'm going to edit the whole video and then come back and film the outro. I said 2 minutes. That was like 20. Anyway, now that you got that whole story out of the way, let's actually get through and finish these lenses. The rest of it should be very easy because there are steps that we've already done before. All I have to do next is just glue in the mesh, glue in the magnets to the lenses, and then the corresponding magnets to the shell. All of that, we're going to use the same 2-part 1-to-1 epoxy resin that we used last time. And at this point, I just want to finish this shell so I can wear it. So, we're going to go into a montage moment and just finish it. always do that? Also, didn't say it, but peep the baby blue, we like that. And here we finally have the final result for finishing this shell. I will be completely honest and upfront, that took an obscene amount of time and an unnecessary amount of steps and retries for me just messing up the entire time, only to go back to step one and just do it more carefully. So if there's a lesson to be learned in this video, number one, it's don't ever listen to Miles. But number two, it's just slow down a little bit and take your time on stuff, because odds are if I had just gotten the pinstripe tape on step one and carefully taped off instead of trying to just put tape on it and try to like cut the little section out, we probably would have been a lot better off. But in the end, we still won. Now, am I 100% satisfied? Probably not, but I think in terms of all things considered, we won. So I'll take it. Thank you so much for putting up with me through this video and watching to see the final result. Make sure you check out the PS5 Miles Morales shell build as well, as that one I did perfectly first try and maybe will increase your confidence in me a little bit after watching this. And also make sure to stay tuned for the final face shell build that we have in that box, because like I said, I purchased 3 of them and I'm gonna start building the last one very soon. So thank you again so much as always for watching. Peace and love, do good things, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Yeah, Spider-Man!